Hi people, in this video I'll be replacing the rear brake pads on a Ford Everest. Now the rotors on this particular car were still in good condition, there was no scoring, they weren't anywhere near their minimum thickness, so this video I'm just replacing the brake pads alone. Grab a 13mm spanner and start undoing the bolt that secures the top sliding pin in place. With that bolt undone, you can then slide the caliper out of the way, exposing the brake pads. Now you can remove the brake pads from their sliders. Make sure that you note that the inner brake pad does have a little bit of a raised section on it, and we want to make sure that we put the new pads in the correct location. With the brake pads out, it's a great chance now to give it a good spray down. This is some brake cleaner here. It just dissolves all the brake dust and gives you the ability to inspect all the components thoroughly. Now the caliper piston will need to be pressed back into the housing. You can use a specialty tool like this one. If you don't have one, you can make do with a G-clamp. You just need to press that piston back into its place. Now pop the sliding pin out of the rubber boot, making sure the boot is in good condition. We want to check the grease that in here that hasn't gone all hard or dry. I've decided to clean the old grease off and use new grease that was supplied with my brake pads. We want to make sure that these pins slide easily in their housing. Now putting the old brake pads up against the new brake pads, we can see that there is a small clip here that needs to be transferred from one set of brake pads to the other. Also note, so it's not written down in the comments, that blue streak on the brake pads is not the grease that I was just putting on the caliper sliding bolt. It just happens to be some colouring on the brake pad. That's coincidental, please don't put that in the comments. Now the little clip just slides off one of the brake pads and slips onto the other brake pad. Just make sure you're doing this in a methodical order so that you don't mess it all up. Now the brake pads can be fitted back into the caliper housing. Please note here that the hardware that the brake pads sit on, some people do put a lot of lubricant on these. I'm often reluctant to do this. In my particular area where I live, it's very rare that we get a lot of corrosion on these, and I don't usually have a problem. Sometimes putting additional lubricant on there can actually just make it quite messy. These ones fit in quite nicely and the hardware wasn't worn, so I was happy to put it back in as it was put in from the factory completely dry. Rotating the caliper back up into position now, you can put that top bolt in for that sliding pin. Now turn your attention to the bottom sliding pin. Again, we want to pull this one out, make sure that it slides easily, and we can put some fresh grease in there too. With that done, make sure both of the bolts to the sliding pins are done up firmly. Put the wheels back on and take the car for a drive. You will have to bed these brakes in, so make sure you read the instructions on your particular brand of brake pad on how best to do that. Hey, thanks for watching. Make sure you leave any comments or questions below.